When I learned that the Floyd County Chamber of Commerce was going to honor Dr. Goble, my first thought was that there was no one that deserves an honor more than Dr. Goble. Dr. Goble made an impact on me, his colleagues in the medical community, as well as his community. First time I met Mike, I thought I was impressed with his personality, his candor, his intelligence. And shortly after that, I saw him in action with patients and taking care of patients. And I remember meeting him in the staff lounge one day and said, you know, Mike, you're the best young doctor in this building. And I truly meant that. As time went on, he continued to exhibit the things, the characteristics that make a person a good doctor: compassion, intelligence, conscientiousness, availability, all those things that you want to see in a good physician. So Dr. Goble was an excellent physician, but in truth, he was a better person. When COVID crisis hit, he was the first one to volunteer. He took care of our COVID patients without fear of his own safety, and he just did the right thing. He organized the medical staff here to be able to provide adequate care and quality care for our COVID patients and the community, and a lot of patients and families are better for that effort. Dr. Goble is still missed. He's still talked about in meetings. We still remember him, and as we're going through the hallways, we are so sorry for his loss, but we are much better people and doctors for our association with Dr. Goble. So I certainly think and feel that the Chamber of Commerce is honoring the right person this year, and our thoughts and prayers out to the family and to his former patients. And we just want to remember the example that Dr. Goble set for all of us.
I've known Dr. Goble since I first started coming here, probably about 6 years ago now. He was a very active member of the medical staff. We became good friends. During the years, shared many days of call together, took care of some mutual patients in the hospital. We grew a lot closer during the pandemic because we had a medical staff sort of crisis shortage, and then just so many influx of really sick patients to the area that Dr. Goble and all of us formed a COVID team to treat exclusively COVID patients for about a year or so. And as we just kept getting overwhelmed, we absorbed that into a different service that we also was a part of. But Mike was just an unbelievable asset to the hospital. His work ethic was unmatched by anyone I've seen. He was just really just one of those aspirational physicians that everyone looked up to in the community and in the hospital and healthcare setting. It was just a real privilege to get to work alongside of him. We miss him dearly in that regard, and I don't think it's sort of the hole that his untimely departure has left us with, I don't think will ever be repaired fully in the medical staff. And in just general, Dr. Goble was a wonderful person. Anytime any of us guys that shared call all together, he would always immediately assist when you had to, take a day, a family issue or something. You just couldn't ask for a better person. And, even though it's been several months now since he's passed away, I just think that we still miss him just as much now as we used to. It's just left us just very much in mourning of Dr. Goble, because he's had a presence here, and I think his legacy will live on long, even after we're gone. And I was just thankful to be his friend, thankful to be his colleague, and it was just an honor knowing and working with Dr. Goble.
It's a great opportunity to speak to you for a few minutes this evening about the importance of Dr. Mike Goble in our community. I came to Highlands ARH back in October of 2019, and Dr. Goble was one of the first physicians I had the opportunity to meet. I found him to be very personable, very in tune to meeting their patients' needs and their family needs, as well as their socioeconomic needs. Over the course of 2+ years, I had an opportunity to work with him. That did not continue to disappear in no shape, fashion, or form. At the same token, we're going through the pandemic, as you well know. So if anything, he stepped it up a couple of additional steps or notches to provide even more personal time with patients and patient families, because we went through a time period that were very concerned early on as to how we were going to do a call rotation here at Highlands ARH. And I remember a call we did on a Sunday morning right before church with him and several of our other key hospitals, physicians here at the hospital, just to talk about what that coverage would look like. And he was one of several of our hospitals that stepped up to the plate and volunteered to take on additional call coverage if there were providers or physicians in the community that did not feel comfortable admitting patients and rounding on patients, and he was part of that team early on.
We just are here to talk about our good friend and our employer, Dr. Goble, how much we miss him, what a good guy he was, what a good doctor he was. I worked for him about 10 years, started working for him at the after-hours clinic at Archer Clinic, and I was always impressed by him, how knowledgeable he was, how good he was to the patients, how the patients loved him. You could trust him on any subject you'd ask. You knew that he knew what he was talking about when you asked him for his advice. If you were at home, you got sick, you could always call Dr. Goble and say, hey, Dr. Goble, I got a problem, and he'd answer you right back. And so other doctors ought to really mimic his way of doctoring. He just was an all-around good guy, always in a good mood, always treated the staff well and fairly, and we sure do miss him.
I worked with Dr. Goble for about 8 years, and he really impressed me as well with the way he was with patients. I mean, everyone thought that he was their best friend because that's the way he treated them. And it didn't matter how long he needed to stay in the room with them, he would stay. As long as I needed him, and he didn't only give medical advice, he was like a counselor to everybody, including me. I mean, I used him a lot for that. Text him anytime I needed him, and I mean, we even had patients after he passed away that was in the parking lot crying, just didn't know what they were going to do without him. So I think that says a whole lot as the kind of person that he was. He was just, if he needed to go to the hospital, no time, it didn't matter what time of night it was, he went. He stayed all night with his patients if he had to, with their families, until, if they were going to pass, he stayed till they passed away. I mean, he was just an amazing, amazing person.
He treated us just like his family and his patients the same. No matter what time of night, you can call him, text him. He was always there for you, no matter what, and his patients.
He even, on his off time, which he had very, very little, he'd help take care of the hospice patients. And I mean, he was always helping out the churches, going and building things if they needed stuff built. He just helped anybody that asked him.
I'd just like to say too, what an excellent father he was to his children. He's got 2 great kids, and he was what a father should be. Not a lot of men are, but he was.
He was their best buddy. That's what he called them.
Yes.
Well, even when the day he left to go to Texas, you can tell by the community. We had a thing for him at Mountain Arts Center, and I mean, it was plumb packed with the patients, family, and I think some out-of-towners that just knew of him that wanted to be there for him. So
just pray for him.
It impacted the whole community when he passed away.
He was just a good country boy, and he always maintained that kind of personality, and people appreciated him for that, and people were close to him because of that. They felt like he was one of them, and he felt like he was one of them. He never was above anybody, Dr. Goble was.
He always joked with the patients. He usually had a joke, something that reminded him of the patient, that he would walk in the room with his line for them.
Yeah.
And it was just always, they were always laughing, and you could always hear him all over the office because he had a laugh that you couldn't mimic. I mean, it was louder than life. And he just made the whole place happy. I mean, I loved to come to work.
And he talked on their level where they could understand what was going on with them. He never tried to talk above them, and he listened. He really listened to everything they had to say, and he tried to help them any way he could.
He would always say that we run the place. He just shows up.
I've worked in my career, many doctors, and I have to say that Dr. Goble was one of the best that I ever worked with. He was so fair and so good to us, and you never felt intimidated around him.